You're listening to another great podcast in the MyMac Podcasting Network.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the show where we take a wander around the week in Apple news, reviews, technology, associated products, and all sorts of other things that catch our eye. This is another episode of the Essential Apple Podcast. Hello all, and welcome to this week's episode. This week it was a bit slim pickings on the Apple news, or I thought we were going to struggle, but at the last minute there's been a flurry of stories, so we're okay. Here we are. This week I am joined by Nick Spligosh Riley. Hello, Nick.
Hi, Simon.
And I am also joined by the elusive co-founder of this show, Mark Chappell. Hello, Mark.
How are we doing? It's been a while, this, isn't it? Oh, what is going on with my microphone? I'm freaking out a little bit because every time I speak, I'm seeing the red light come on my mixer. So it might be time to have a look at getting a microphone.
Well, you're coming out all right this end, Mark. So there we go. Right. Well, before we go any further, I'm going to give a big shout out to all the members of the Slack room who put in stories. I don't always thank them, but every week the members put all sorts of possible stories in the Slack. And to be fair, without them, we'd never have half the stories we managed to turn up. So thanks once again, Slackers.
And also, a big thank you to our Patreon people. And there's going to be a surprise coming to our Patreon backers in the next day or so, because I've been doing video reviews.
Whoa, fantastic.
And you might even get to see some dancing, which I might make a continuing theme of my videos, but it depends on how drunk I get on my next review. That's it. That's it. Thank you, Beer52. Affiliate link in the show notes.
Very good. Very good. Okay. It was a strange week. There was almost nothing apparently going on, and then, excuse me,
I haven't heard the show from the Apple event. But can anyone actually remember anything about the Apple event? Because the only thing I can remember is how much Tim Cook winds me up on stage because he's always reading the auto cue. And what makes it worse is I went back and I looked at the old Steve Jobs iPhone, the original iPhone presentation. Not once, or maybe once, but you certainly didn't notice him looking at the auto cue. And a lot of the other presenters, if you look at the stagecraft, they don't look at the auto cue either. It's only Tim, and it winds me right up. It really does.
Well, on this occasion, Mark, we had lots of actors reading the auto cue.
Oh, and you know,
real actors.
And you know when an event is bad, when you realise, oh, I'm on my phone during a keynote presentation checking Facebook. It was a good idea to break up the continuity by lights on, lights off, lights on, lights off. It is so staid, I think is the word.
I have to say, by the end, I was flagging. It's like it didn't help that a lot of it didn't really appeal to me in the least. That's not going to help. But
I thought it was quite interesting, actually. I've been thinking about it and listening to other podcasts during this last week. It's quite interesting that the main movie industry knows that the best way to sell movies is to show trailers. Because they do a lot of it. And I must admit, when you're sitting, I've got one of these cinema passes and I've been using it, so I've been going more often to make best use of the pass that I've got. And you do watch the trailers and think, oh, okay, that looks interesting, or oh, that's not for me, or but it's the trailers. If they just had a load of people standing up on stage talking about it, you probably walk out or go and do something else.
And that is exactly what was happening. You got people. I was on ATP and they nailed it perfectly. So quite often they infuriatingly do. It's like they're actually describing a movie trailer or a TV show trailer. It's like, have you not got anything to show it? And then you're announcing it's going to be available in the fall, and that is the bit I don't quite understand is why advance it now. What was the aim of announcing Apple TV? Because we knew it was going to happen, but I just don't get the timing.
No, I didn't either. I mean, I thought, and a lot of people have said the same. I mean, it was an announcement of an announcement to come. It was a bit, although Carolina said
it felt like, oh, our last quarterly revenue was down. Quick, do other stuff so it goes back up.
Well,
if you look at everything that's happened, like, and there's probably conspiracy theoryism and all this sort of stuff, but then the new iPads dropping, a complete refresh of the Mac line that dropped, the push to put services on everything, which is something that Apple have never done before. But okay, yeah, you've got a service, so therefore you want it out to everywhere. It just it feels like a reaction.
I'm sure you're right. I'm sure it is a reaction. Apple know that their iPhone, the thing they've been relying on for so long, is not selling in the numbers it was. It's still selling loads, but it's not selling quite as well as it was, and so they're looking to other places to try and find other ways of making money. And I mean, that's understandable. I
think
suppose.
Of course, the problem here is not, we all know that device lifetimes are extending when the market becomes mature and the prices go up. We all know that. I mean, as I said previously, in order to have an iPhone XR, I had to take it over a 3-year contract rather than a 2-year contract, which I've always had previously. At least to keep the price at, the monthly price at something I was prepared to pay. And
that's exactly the point then, isn't it? It comes down to the pricing. And I'm going to admit, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he jumped on Apple right at the Intel stage of things. And he's going, you know what? Samsung and their devices are showing a bit of innovation. Yeah, I know I'm separating out here the whole privacy thing, but their devices are looking quite tempting. Android is coming on really, really well. And I think Android is starting to show more usefulness and more flexibility. I mean, I still wouldn't go to Android because I value my sanity and my privacy. Why is it when I'm installing let's say a drawing app or a game, it wants access to my entire bloody library, my pictures and everything else? But
you see, I think, Mark, what it is that the whole of the growth of the iPhone and of iPad and on all those iOS devices all came from this movement to consolidate different things all into one thing. The sort of convergence was the key word at the time. And all that's happened. And I think even though Samsung might be trying, more adventurous things, they're still struggling a bit because really all the convergence has happened. There's very little more they're going to add into your phone that actually hasn't already been added in already.
Exactly. And by the way, it has been reported, if you bothered to look, but of course it didn't get trumpeted like Apple's. Apple misses earning, call. But Samsung's revenues have taken a pounding.
Oh yeah, that didn't get reported at all, did it?
Well, it got reported, but yes, it was quiet. Shall we say about it?
It didn't get trumpeted from the rooftops, did it? Samsung what was it? They put out a profit warning, I think, for the quarter. Anyway, what I was going to say is,
I think it's just purely come down to the fact now that jump over the 999 mark when you start hitting £1,000. Yes, there's a lot of technology but it's like, I think they've sort of pushed that envelope now of like saying, well, how far can we push the iPhone in terms of price?
Yeah.
And I genuinely believe it's that. It's just been, I mean,
it is, because you can pick up a laptop, can't you, for that price? A fairly decent laptop, okay, not a Mac, but you can pick up a laptop for that price.
I mean, $1,000. Well, let's face it, a top of the range iPhone is going to set you back more than $1,000. So you are talking, even mid-range Apple laptops at that price.
And the thing is, like Steve saw the value of putting stickers in a box. When you got a Mac or an Apple device, you used to get stickers in the box. That's no longer a thing. And that feels like an accountancy move. Steve understood, putting these little extras in And this is what winds me up about this new Apple, is that you take away the little headphone adapter dongle. You've taken away the little device to open up your phone. Now, maybe the liquid metal thing they took out so they can hit some sort of arbitrary eco-friendly target thing they've got. But you're increasing the price, but then you're also portraying an image of looking quite stingy and quite miserly at the same time. And it's the old argument, like with the Mac, with the new MacBooks, you buy a MacBook and then you have to buy all the cables, which is a complete step back from what it used to be, where everything in a box get you up and running. Whereas here's a little bit, and now we want some more money off you. I'm starting to feel that the Apple that we're in now, and especially what with all the services, is basically that's it. They just want to be a services company. I think if they could get rid of the Mac and just have the iPad, I think they would do that. But because it's there, I don't think they can.
I think a lot of the thing is driven by the Apple are making stonking amounts of money, right? All this doom and gloom. They are making vast quantities of money. You know, every second their coffers are being flooded with cash. The big thing is they're not continuing to grow at, ballistic rates because you just can't. But Wall Street and whatnot, they're only interested in growth. They're not interested in you continuing to make large amounts of money. They want to see you getting ever bigger and making ever more money.
And this is the thing. Again, this is why I keep saying it. Everything that they're doing just feels like a reaction. Like this sudden pounding of services. It just feels. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it just feels like there's something more to it that maybe is profit driven. I don't know.
Well,
I mean, it's all profit driven, isn't it? I mean, they are a company, after all, who need to make a profit. But I think I know what you're saying, Mark. I mean, I think there's been a change in Apple, certainly under Tim, that they've become more financially focused than they used to be. They always made lots of money, but somehow, as you say, there are little things that indicate that they're really keeping a really careful eye on the bottom line for everything that they're doing. And that's sometimes driving their decisions rather than making better products. That's how I feel about it anyway.
Yeah. Well, the one thought I just had is, think back to the last sort of few keynotes. Have you ever seen Tim look so happy and look so enthused and actually have a bit of energy about him on stage? Even when it's like there's been a new iPhone 10 and all that sort of stuff. It's been very much trot out, do his thing, walk off. The guy was pretty much smiling and grinning the whole way through. Yeah, I can't actually remember seeing Tim Cook, full of as much energy in his life as he was on this keynote about services.
That's true.
That's true. I thought, and the Tech Pinions gang said much the same, that the whole thing with rolling out Jennifer Aniston and Jason Momoa and Steven Spielberg and J.J. Abrams and all the rest of it was not really pitched at us, the consumers. The point of that was to target Hollywood and to shout out to Wall Street, look what we're doing.
It does seem a strange way of doing it, though, actually using a public keynote.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If you're going to target executives and people, decision makers, would you use a public keynote to do it? I mean, they may be right. That might be exactly what they're doing. To me, it just seems like a bit of a strange thing to do.
The whole keynote was a little odd to me because it was full of things which were, I mean, in the end of it, when push came to shove, almost nothing was available now.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what I was thinking. It's like, oh, this is all good. And so we're just going to have to wait now. Okay.
Yeah.
In my conversations with Bart last week, he was very positive about it all. He thought it was really good, and I must admit that when Bart thinks that something is really good, it's really difficult to argue with him because he's such a persuasive.
I'm not
persuasive person.
But it's almost like a one-handed ass-kicking contest.
Yes, because he is very persuasive. But I still come away feeling a little bit. And I think I said this on the Bart show last week, that part of it was that nothing really appealed to me. None of it sort of appealed to me particularly, and And perhaps perhaps I had my negative opinion is just being swayed by the fact that I'm not going to use any of that.
I mean,
stuff.
the fact that most of it didn't really, do anything for me, obviously is going to colour my view, I'm sure. But at the moment, the magazines thing is pretty much it's US and Canada only at the moment. Although apparently they had a huge uptake in the first 24 hours. But then again,
everyone's going to try it, aren't they? To see what it's like.
Having a huge uptake on a free trial is not necessarily that spectacular.
Well, I know one thing it's done for me. With I've got Apple have done this whole thing of try another 2 months or a month of Apple Music on us, and I sort of held off because I thought if it's going to be like iApple, where TV, videos, music, and all that sort of stuff, are they going to offer a free trial? Do I hold off on this Apple Music, or is Apple TV going to have its own sort of separate, hopefully, free trial period?
Who knows? Because they didn't reveal anything about pricing or exact dates or anything. There we go.
And they also are they're going to be on a bit of a hiding because they're not. It doesn't seem that they're going to have that many shows for what we've seen so far. It doesn't look like they have that many movies. So you can imagine when it gets released, the sheer amount of criticism that's going to be leveled at every single program, which pretty much like Amazon and Netflix won't get, because they release so much. So Apple's going to be really under scrutiny for all this. And I don't know. I think I like the fact that they are going down the Disney style route of no sex, movies, drugs, rock and roll, and stuff like that. But I don't think that's the right target market. If you look at the people that are doing the podcast, the people that are buying the devices, that's quite I would guess, quite a mature sort of market. I would guess it's like the people like you, me, the Carl Maddens, who like a bit of sci-fi. I'm obviously not speaking for everyone here, but, they like a bit of sci-fi. They like something with a bit of edge and maybe a bit of violence, or not gratuitously. You know what I mean? There's adult-ish content, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But they're aiming it for a family-friendly sit around the Apple TV. It's almost...
Not sure how that's going to pan out.
Yeah, I think we're just going to have to wait and see what the content's really like, because it's hard to judge from the descriptions that they gave us.
It is
exactly what they're going to be like. So
the proof is in the eating, as it were. There we go. So moving on a bit for some things that have cropped up this week. As I say, nearly all the stories that I've picked up have come out in the last couple of days. This is one we were talking about before the show. Sonnet EGFX Radeon RX 560 breakaway puck hits the Apple Store. And if
I'm interested in
and if that's not a mouthful, I don't know what is.
Because I'm just on Amazon now, and you've got a Sonnet EGFX breakaway box, Thunderbolt 3 to eGPU for $199, or you can get one with a built-in Radeon card for, he says, try and find a link, install it for $399. So they're charging you what looks like an extra $100 for a decent graphics card. But I don't know, the Mac is a gaming platform, because I did try. I have got my old 2011 Mac, which is way, way, way underpowered now for gaming. And everything is basically just a wine wrapper. So basically what that is, from my limited understanding, is you take a PC game, you package it up in a thing called wine, which I can't remember what it stands for, and then basically it works.
It's a recursive.
So it's kind of like...
Wine is wine stands for wine is not an emulator.
I was just about to say the E word as well then.
In a typical, Linux manner. It's a kind of emulation layer, isn't it?
Yeah. But that means that on a Mac platform where things are already like a little bit constrained in terms of graphics prowess, or at least they were, that means it's going to run slower than it should do anyway.
Yeah.
So, and this is the thing. So I don't know if this is actually well, maybe it's not there to fix gaming, but this new Radeon breakout box seems to do the thing. But I don't know. I would be just tempted if I wanted to do gaming on a Mac. You get a they get a PC or you get a PlayStation, Xbox, and use their live streaming thingy. So you game from your Mac desktop over your LAN.
Yeah. Well, there's that. But I'm
I also wonder whether it's for people who need to drive multiple displays, because I noticed it's got one Thunderbolt and 3 display ports off it,
and an HDMI, I believe.
and an HDMI.
Let's say it in this article. Right, a less expensive external GPU option for Thunderbolt 3 Max, the Sonnet EGFX Breakaway Puck Radeon RX 560, is now available through Apple's online store. It can handle 4 4K monitors. It has 4 gigabytes of GDDR5 VRAM, 3 DisplayPort 1.4 and 1 HDMI 2 connection. And it can supply up to 60 watts of power to an attached MacBook. And it's not very big, is it? It's about 6 by 5 by 2, so about the sort of size of an old Mac Mini.
I'm just trying to figure out how I find out what version of Thunderbolt that I've got.
About this Mac, more info, I think.
Yep, on there, and I've got Thunderbolt bus, vendor name, device name, UID, root string, firmware, domain, UUID, port, link status.
How old is your Mac Mini?
Late 2012.
Your best bet for that, mate, is
it'll be Thunderbolt 1, I guess.
Yep.
Or maybe 2. Your best bet for that is what is it? The Mac database.
Oh,
Mac Tracker.
Yes, that's the one.
Mac Tracker. Everybody should have Mac Tracker. It's brilliant. It allows you to look up pretty much everything about every Mac ever made.
So if you click through and have a look at this this device, it comes up with some figures that I don't really understand, but they're big figures, so they've got to be good. It says with up to 2,750 megabytes per second of PCI bandwidth, which sounds impressive, whatever it is.
Yeah. I suspect. And then it says if you're looking for a beefier GPU option, you can pick up the Breakaway Puck with the RX 570 for $500 from B&H Photo or Amazon.
I wonder why they've chosen to call it a puck.
Because
the puck's normally round, isn't it?
It is, but there you go.
Yeah.
I guess compared to most eGPU external boxes, which tend to be like fairly hefty, don't they? They look like those old sort of multiple HD NAS enclosures. A lot of them. Anyway,
I want one. The reason I want one is because there's a new game coming out called Phoenix Point, and I really want to play it. But I've got the choice now of either spending about $400 on this box, or I hack together a gaming PC for almost the same amount of money.
Right.
I don't know.
The B&H website I'm on says no shipping to the United Kingdom.
Lovely. Thank you. Well, I suspect, like you, Nick, it's not really pitched at gaming. I suspect it's pitched at the ability to power a host of large screens.
Yeah, it might have been useful for the problems I've been having down at church,
and
which is still ongoing.
And it's probably also, I would think, pitched at people who want to do video editing, and
yeah, it could be
that kind of thing.
I need that kind of
There we are. But anyway, that's. I mean, as you said before the show, Nick, that seems quite pricey to you, but relatively speaking, for that sort of device, $400 is relatively cheap.
I suppose so.
A lot of those
particularly if you're buying it for a business or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those external things go for way more money than that. I mean, some of the big PC graphics cards will set you back, $500 or whatever.
Oh, just taking a look now on eBay, they're holding, they're holding their money quite well as well. It's wrong. I know I'm certainly very negative about this, but it's good to know it's to finally have that there. But again, you got to wonder, why has the Mac had such relatively underpowered GPUs since pretty much the beginning of time? I mean, underpowered in sense of raw benchmarking. Yes, you have got things like Swift and Metal to make the most out of it. I just don't think it's been on Apple's radar. I don't think that it's been particularly important to them because gaming has never been a big thing for them on the Mac.
No, and also Apple always tend to. I think Apple very much pitch most of their machines to be the sort of most useful to the largest number of people.
Yeah.
And if you, I mean, you know, let's face it, we all know Apple kit is not cheap. And if you start sticking high-end graphics cards in all of your machines, you're going to jack the price up by another $300-400. And for most people don't care. Don't forget that. You know, your average user really does not care. They're not doing that sort of thing.
As long as when they click on something, it happens almost immediately. That's all they really worried about.
You know, as long as their YouTube videos play without stuttering, you know, then they're fine. So yeah. Anyway, if you're interested in that, apparently it is now coming to the Apple Store. I'm going to skip over one and say Apple is exploring an updated version of MagSafe, one of the best charging inventions ever. And this is on, you can find this other places, but this one's on Mark's favourite website, the Business Insider.
Oh, I'm not touching this because I've gone straight into it. Number one, we'd like to send you notifications with the latest news and updates.
Turn that off. Turn it off.
I know, but I'm getting to it. Then it goes, it looks like you're using an ad blocker. Yeah, you're damn right I am, yeah.
Anyway, they are...
Why? I don't know. I'm staying out of this one.
Anyway, you can find it other places. This, I think, pretty much comes down to a patent. Apple apparently did not think the old MagSafe solution was safe enough or efficient enough. And
I wonder why. Oh, I'm sure that's not the feedback they got from their users.
No, it says in the patent application, Apple describes a smart charging system where the connector will be able to dynamically attract or repel the connector to and from the device.
Oh.
Apparently, old magnetic connectors like MagSafe would get damaged because they stayed attracted throughout a jolting event. Well, I have to say that I don't think I've ever damaged a MagSafe cable by tripping over it, but I've certainly, you know, saved my laptop multiple times when my kids have come.
I'd rather break connector than have my whole laptop go pummeling to the floor.
Yeah, exactly. Right, you know, the number of times my kids have come thundering through, and it's like, watch my cable.
Well, I'm glad they're thinking about it because, in all honesty, I think everyone. I can't think of anyone I've ever heard say, "Oh, MagSafe, that was rubbish."
No,
because it wasn't. It was brilliant.
Considered.
And again, it's interesting that we're all assuming, or a lot of the people assumed, that MagSafe was removed because it was like a very Tim Cookian thing to do, like something's used for, is it making us any margin? No, remove it. Where it could have actually been a legitimate issue with a patent or something like that. But we're already jumping to the fact that, oh, this is just Apple being cheap. And that's a sort of mantra that I'm sort of getting a bit worried about. That
I'm pretty sure that the main reason was because they wanted to go to USB-C.
Yeah.
And they wanted to only have, you know, USB-C.
It was in their drive, wasn't it, to get rid of as many ports as possible.
I mean, if you have a USB-C powered Mac, there are people like Belkin will sell you a small USB plug that goes in and has a MagSafe out connector. So obviously it doesn't go flush into your Mac, but it goes almost flush. And then they have a magnetic cable that attaches to that. So effectively, they're putting a USB-C dongle on the end of a MagSafe. So you can buy those. You can buy those online.
Yeah, there's been a few sort of startup-y type things, but they've obviously got a vision, and we're not worthy enough to know it or see it.
Well,
yet,
according to this, they have said here, MagSafe used to have a little light on the plug which turned orange if the computer was connected and charging, or green if the computer was charged. Apple says this visual indicator is constantly on and wastes power and decreases the efficiency of the portable electronic devices receiving power. What, one LED? Right. Really? That seems a bit... Anyway, I mean, gee, that's a patent. I mean, in patents, you write all sorts of... Yeah.
But then surely there's got to be a way to show an indicator in the software or put it somewhere so we can see something or have a setting. It's not insurmountable. It's just... I don't know. It just feels like Apple just doesn't want to do it.
Well, according to this patent, Apple's patent describes this smart charging system would be able to operate with a smartphone, a wearable device, smartwatch, tablet, personal computer, etc.
So from what you've said, it sounds like they're going to put the same sort of technology into it that is in hard drives, where the heads retract when it feels that it's being dropped.
I think, yeah, the idea is...
And this will actually repel the thing, so it actually disconnects.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, part of the idea of this is that, when it detects a tug, it will actually reverse the magnetic polarity and spit the connector out.
Clever idea.
It's a clever idea, and they're talking about the connection being indicated by a haptic. Seems a little OTT to me. You're going to put a haptic engine in the end of the thing, and just like Mark says, just bring it up on the screen. Anyway, there we go.
I'll tell you something completely unconnected, and absolutely brilliant. But I mean, it's connected in the sense that it's about haptics. I was paying for something on my watch today. And one of the things I really love about it is sometimes it's a bit awkward to get to for some reason, Marks and Spencer seem to decide to put their chip on the right hand side of the reader, which is really difficult to get your wrist into. So the guy turned it over for me, and I turned my wrist over and put my watch down. And of course, the nice thing is it gives you a little buzz when you're paying, when it's paid correctly. And I just thought it's really clever because you don't actually have to see the watch to know that you've actually paid.
No.
Oh, that was clever. Clever stuff.
Yeah. So there we go. If they do bring it back, I'd be really happy because, I don't have any devices new enough not to have MagSafe. I was still sad when they took it away. My current laptop has MagSafe 2 connector. And I was looking on Amazon, and I might buy myself for about £10 a MagSafe 1 to MagSafe 2 adapter, because I've got several old MagSafe 1 chargers laying around, which are currently no use, and only one MagSafe 2 charger that came with this laptop. And if I bought a £10, 2-to-1 snap-on dongle, I could make use of the other chargers and not have to keep fishing the one out of my bag every time I need a charger, which would be quite nice. There we go. So the other story, of course, was Apple has hired Google AI expert Ian Goodfellow to direct machine learning. Again, you can find this all over the web. Like we've said before on this show, these kind of hires happen all the time. These kind of top of the field guys and women, no doubt, move from place to place, following what catches their interest, I think. But Goodfellow apparently is known for inventing the generative adversarial networks, or GANs. Which,
those old chestnuts.
Well, no, those are the things we were talking about the other week. The ones that generate the this person does not exist photos. And the thing that allows people to just draw like really childish sketches, and then
and it does all the AI processing, so you can draw some hills in a bit of white, and it'll create a vista. Which is that out in the public domain yet?
No,
or is that just still
there's only videos of. No, it's a real thing, but it's not something that you can do yet. There's videos of it around, but that's generated by a GAN. And that was I don't know. It was at some trade do, wasn't it? There are videos of them doing it. You draw like a bit of brown and say this is a mountain, and a bit of blue and say this is water, and so on.
I get the impression, that these news items tend to throw around the word AI against all sorts of things. It's a little bit like these days the word robotics has been stolen, if you like, by people who do automation. It's now called robotics in business, and I just think it's a bit strange because it's got nothing to do with robots, not really.
Well,
there's no robots walking around. It's about automation, and I think AI is a little bit the same. Really, they tend to put AI in front of all sorts of people.
Indeed. They do indeed.
And they're not. It's not necessarily AI as such. It's just it might be related to AI. Yeah.
It's all machine learning. I mean, this guy actually. I mean, what did they say? They keep saying he is a director of machine learning. He's not.
Right.
Of course, there's a load of
I just
speculation
wonder
because
what.
he's been hired for the special projects group.
Ah, okay. I just wonder. We keep hearing a lot about AI and about how Apple are going to use this, and it's the future of what Apple is going to do, but we haven't seen an awful lot of it. It seems to me.
And also, this augmented reality bits and bobs as well.
True.
Yeah. We keep getting some clever games at keynotes and things, but I mean, it could be. Of course, it's in the background of an awful lot of stuff that we're using. We're just not aware of it.
You're just not aware of it a lot of the time, I think. And also, I think when people talk about AI, a lot of it is machine learning. It's not really AI, and some of it is kind of AI, but it's very specific. There's a big difference between some kind of AI, doing a focused task, and general AI as we kind of think of it in the sci-fi situation, of actual
something that seems to think for itself.
Or something that appears to behave in a humanistic manner. That that kind of general AI and artificial personality and artificial being. There's a long. It's a bit like the thing about self-driving cars. Okay, there's all this talk about self-driving cars, and actually, I've realised I don't think the change to self-driving cars will come along in the manner of that. A lot of people seem to think that, like electric vehicles, suddenly somebody's going to come out and say, "Here's a self-driving car, right? You can go out and buy this self-driving car, and it's got no steering wheel and no pedals. You just get in it and tell it where you want to go." That's not how it's going to work. That's not how it's going to work. You think about your car now, like my car. It's got it's electronically engine managed. It's got traction control. It's got suspension control. It does all sorts of things. I can it's fully automatic gearbox. It has paddles, but if you attempt to change the up or down a gear when it's outside the sensible range, it won't allow you to do it. The government are talking about putting intelligent speed limiters into cars so that with GPS they will know what the speed limit is on the road.
That was coming down the road, pardon the pun, ages ago when it was the insurance company saying, we're going to put this black box into your car, but what we'll do, we'll give you a bit of a discount, but we'll put this black box into your car, which is going to track every single movement you do. And that was fine because it was an insurance company. But Apple stores a map of cell towers. Apple is tracking your every move.
Oh, yeah. But what I'm saying is I think this thing will be incremental, gradually, gear changing, managed acceleration, managed braking, managed speed control so you can't go over the speed limit.
I think I know what you're saying, and then eventually it'll all come together into.
Well, these things will just be added incrementally, like onion skins over the top, until eventually you realise that actually you're not really doing anything other than sitting in the driving seat, and
they're acting as a safety precaution.
You may be right.
It's like planes. Planes can fly themselves. You don't need a pilot. All the technology is there. It's just that, could you ever imagine getting onto a plane without a pilot?
Yeah.
It's the whole thing about, we have this thing about humans are safer, which is true to some sort of extent. But when I was in Dubai, they're saying, a lot of pilots were saying, we're literally just there because it's a good insurance. We've got to be there for insurance purposes.
Well, there you go. I'm just saying, I'm pretty. The more I've thought about it, the more I've realised that it's unlikely that somebody will come out with a self-driving car just like that. It will be a matter of one step after another until.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then people will just say, well, why is that? Why am I even bothering to have to hold this steering wheel? Because I don't do anything.
Yeah, we'll just get, as you say, we'll just get closer and closer and closer. I mean, and the way that the industry has broken it down it is in different levels.
Yeah.
So you have level 1 automation and level 2 automation, and level 4 automation is when it all comes together.
And level 5 automation is a full driving. Just get in it and tell it where you want to go. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I've realised that it's unlikely that a car per se will just appear and be the first self-driving. It won't work like that. The industry will just keep adding and adding things and taking away things from human control. It will add things like, other vehicle detection and space management and all those things, so that cars, you can't tailgate the bloke in front. You can't get too close to the car. You won't be able to.
Which quite a lot of cars can already do these days.
Yeah, you won't be able
optional.
to, you won't be allowed to try and change lanes when there's somebody within your blind quarter and so on.
Yes,
and eventually, as more and more of those things happen, the driver will effectively have less and less control until such point as the car is basically driving itself. There we go. So anyway, they've hired this guy, Ian Goodfellow, and he's gone to the special projects group, and therefore there's a lot of speculation that he's working on the car. But special projects, I'm sure, can cover anything.
I thought Project Titan was cancelled. Remember all those mass layoffs and all that sort of stuff?
There was all that talk about that. They didn't cancel it. They just refocused it or moved on to another stage. Pivoted. Yeah, that's a good one.
God, I feel sick now.
Very good. Okay. Who's seen the ad about the scrappy group of co-workers doing a round pizza box? Have you watched that, boys?
Yes.
No.
Did you not watch it, Mark?
I've literally had no idea. Oh, I can't, because straight in and weak. We value your privacy.
Well, no, you don't want to.
Partners,
Yeah, no, that's just about it. There's no link to the video there. If you follow the YouTube link, if you want to actually watch it, it's quite long. It's also Adweek have described it as better than most sitcoms. That's the point, and it is. It's a very clever little sort of 2-minute film or something. 3-minute film.
You describe it as a short film, a short movie, wouldn't you?
Yes, it is. It's very much. It's not an advert in the classic
I love
sense.
These because I'm just looking at it, and they've got the target demographic of you must have X amount of whites, British, American, LGBT, color, creed, race in one classroom.
Oh, yeah, you were looking at the one about the homework one.
The homework, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, strangely, the homework one, I don't know if that's older, but I've never seen that touted anywhere. But this co-workers, developing around pizza box has made the thing. Partly, of course, because the pizza box that they're making is the pizza box that Apple patented a couple of years ago or a year or so ago.
Yeah. What I quite liked about it was that it wasn't blatantly Apple. There were just lots of little things slipped into it. Where someone says, "Oh, I'll
airdrop it to me." Yeah,
I'll airdrop it to them. Things like that.
Like that.
Oh, yes, of course they're using Macs.
And that was also
I thought it was quite clever.
There was also some clever bits, like there was the bit where the guy's at home and he's on his Mac and he's looking at the pie chart or whatever that he's designed for the presentation. And then all of a sudden, there's like purple scribbling all over it, and he looks round, and his small child has got that iPad, which is obviously in sync, and he's drawing on it with the pencil. And he's like, "Can I have that back, please?"
I do like it when they do subtle things. There's a lot of shows on Netflix where the laptop lid pops up, and it's like Samsung, Sony, not so much Apple. In fact, I haven't seen many Apple bits on TV, products on TV, and it always makes me laugh. Like they're trying to do it, like you just said, Simon, where it's natural, where I'll just airdrop it or share this with you, or let me just open up that app. Whereas on TV, I just love how cheesy it is, where the camera's slightly down lower to give you a straight on angle look at the product.
Anyway, there we go. So those are both worth a look. The one is called Apple at Work, I think, which is the one about them developing a pizza box.
I'll tell you what, they don't actually. Sorry, Simon, to interrupt. They don't get that many views on their YouTube channel. And I'm just looking at one here, how to shoot with Stage Light Mono on iPhone, and that's only had 116,000 views.
That's quite few. And the other one that I found was called Homework, which basically just played automatically after I'd watched the one about Apple at Work, and that was good as well. It's about a load of kids doing a project. Yeah, and that's funny as well, isn't it? There's the I particularly like the bit where they drop the egg and the watermelon off the bridge, and they use slow mo on the.
Yes.
They use slow mo to film the two objects hitting the ground at the same time, and of course the watermelon bursts and goes everywhere, and then you see that kid licking the watermelon off his iPad. Oh dear, yeah. But that was amusing. So yeah, nice work. And again, not rather than actively kind of saying all the time, you can do this and you can do that. They just show them doing it and without saying anything at all. There we go.
Apple have always their advertising has always been a little bit different to everybody else, hasn't it? Somehow they've always found an unusual angle, or and they often talk about what you can do with their equipment rather than look at our equipment and how powerful it is.
Yes, very much so.
Which I've always liked about Apple is that that the best way to sell your stuff is to say, look what you can get done.
Yeah, very much so. And if you listen to the Cultcast from the Cult Mac guys,
I do now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of that, Earthon nearly always plays an old Apple advert of some sort.
Oh, he does, yes.
Often from the sort of 80s or whatever. And they're all very much about... But they're all, again, very much about what you can do, how much Macintosh will help you, rather than, it's got all these specs and it does this and it does that and we've got this and that.
And it's more powerful than...
none of that, is it? It's, suddenly monitoring accounts will get the reports done quicker and, Joe in the post room will come up with a brilliant presentation and all that sort of thing.
And this is... let me try that bit again, shall we? Going back to my 2011 iMac is me my slightly newer Mac Mini because I haven't got AirDrop. And I think what you just said, Nick, about how it sneaks up on you. Not having AirDrop is a major pain in the backside. Because I had to go back and think, I've got this image, but now I want to get it up on my Mac to do some work on it. How am I going to do that? And I thought, am I going to email it? And then I ended up having to jump through this thing and save it to files. But of course, you can't create a folder if you're saving an image. You have to come all the way back out, go into files, create your folder, go back to the app, and then share it into the folder you've just created. So I just thought as an interesting aside that I missed AirDrop.
Do you know, I don't think I've ever used AirDrop.
No, nor have I.
Oh, it's brilliant for swapping links, pictures, images. I was out yesterday with some friends, and I took my iPhone 10 with me and was using portrait mode, and it was just so good to be able to go, here you are, being done, sent, without having to send it via messages and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, cool.
So, what else have we got? Oh, well, Steve Troughton Smith says apparently that Mac OS 10.15 may see the iTunes app broken up into chunks. I tend not to go much into rumours, but this is Steve Troughton Smith, and he has said, although he does actually end his statement with grains of salt, etc. In a tweet, Steve Troughton Smith said, I am now fairly confident, based on evidence I do not wish to make public at this point, that Apple is planning a new, likely UI kit-based music, podcasts, and perhaps even books apps for Mac OS to join the new TV app. I expect these four will be the next wave of marzipan apps, grain of salt, etc. There we go.
It'll be. You can sort of see where they're coming from on this because you've got Apple TV, you've got Apple Music, so splitting them up. Then what would be the purpose of iTunes? Well, if they take all this content out, what would with the music? Would it just be for music again, or would it go back down to that?
I think what they're talking about would actually be, destroying iTunes altogether.
So actually, no more iTunes at all.
Well, there might be an iTunes store, I suppose. It might be the iTunes store, but I suspect if that's what they're going to do, you're going to have a books app, you're going to have a music app, like on iOS.
Yeah.
I mean, iOS doesn't have iTunes per se, does it? There's an iTunes store app that most people bury somewhere in the, last screen in the folder of I never use this stuff.
This is a perennial. I mean, I know that Steve Troughton Smith might have his finger on the pulse. But it is a perennial, isn't it? This is something that comes up quite often.
It is, and there have been lots of people who've suggested that reasons why it should be broken up, and then there have been plenty of counter arguments as to why it shouldn't.
Yeah, most of the arguments are around the fact that it grew so in such a higgledy-piggledy way that it'd be really horrible to take to pieces.
Yeah, but I think maybe the marzipan thing could be the clue, which I assume is what he's talking about, because on iOS you have a music app, you have a books app, you have a TV app.
But looking at the state of marzipan apps now, that would be one hell of a jump to go from the current state of marzipan apps now to, you know what, this is going to be your main one of your main apps. So if they are doing that, then Apple must have some confidence in what they're doing.
Well, I'm pretty sure. Of course, I don't know anything more than what's been said there, and it could be a case of they could start off with, you've got these apps, or you can still go through iTunes. They could do it that way to start with, couldn't they? They could break them out as kind of alternatives. I mean, who actually uses
like
iTunes?
they did the podcasts app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who actually uses iTunes all that much? I don't.
No, I don't.
To be honest, if I click on something and I see iTunes accidentally launching, I'm straight down onto the dock, right clicking, going force quit. I don't bleeding iTunes.
And in all honesty, at one time it was vital because you couldn't update your phone without it, and you couldn't sync without it. But all of that's gone away now, and it happens outside of iTunes.
About the only thing that you might want to use iTunes for, pretty much these days, is if you want to make a local backup of your phone, which I do occasionally. Particularly if I get a new phone or something, I'll go into iTunes, do back up this phone to my machine, then I'll back it back up to iTunes, to iCloud, and then I'll update the phone or change over to my new phone, and that's only a kind of a safety net in case something goes wrong with the iCloud sync. And then usually once I'm done with that and I'm happy that my new phone or whatever is working fine, I go in and chuck the bloody local backup away. No, I admit I don't play music very much. I don't have an Apple Music subscription. I don't have a Spotify thing.
I've always found it, I don't know whether anyone else has found it this way, but I've always found it vaguely annoying that when you try to play anything musically, it loads it into iTunes. I've always found that, if you click on a music link on a web page, suddenly you're in iTunes and you think, oh, why is it doing that?
Yeah.
I've always found it that a little bit annoying.
I don't play a lot of music through iTunes. On my phone, I've got a completely different music player because I find the music app blatantly annoying.
And I can get Apple Music now on my Amazon Alexa, which is nice.
Yes, that's something else that's happened, doesn't it? Apple Music, now that Amazon and Apple have stopped trying to poke each other's eyes out. Oh, this one isn't in the show notes, is it? Did anybody see that apparently Amazon are going to launch some, AirPod-esque earbuds?
Oh, yes, I saw something about it.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I really hope that they do pull through something, because Apple have had that market for quite a while, and I've got to say, I love my AirPods. In fact, I thought I lost them the other day, and such was my blind state of panic about having to think, I'm going to have a thing with a cable? What sort of monster am I going to be? I was almost about to pull the plug and go, you know what, I'm going to buy another set. I absolutely love them. I wish they were better for recording, like in a microphone setting. So if I'm driving around, I could record some audio for a podcast or something like that. I've never been on the other end of a phone call with someone using AirPods. I don't know what it sounds like, but absolutely love them.
I forget who it was. Somebody recently, though, came on the podcast and said, all I've got is my AirPods. Will that be all right? And they must have been okay, because I don't remember thinking, oh, my God, this is awful audio.
Yeah, I mean, I've had telephone conversations with my AirPods, and the people at the other end haven't sounded like they're having problems hearing me.
No, I think that
I think what it gets me is in my head, because I've done an audio recording using Apple Voice Memo-y thingy, whatever it was called, because it sounds like such a low bit rate. It's now stuck in my head that's what I sound like when I'm on a phone call to someone. I'm really hoping it's not, because I spend loads of time on my phone.
Well, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Don't forget that most phone transmissions are pretty low grade anyway. They only transmit a terribly low grade audio, telephone calls.
I will admit, I'm lucky enough to be able to just about to get away with FaceTime audio. Is that a FaceTime thing? This is how out of the loop I am now. Did the old FaceTime group calling thing get fixed?
Yes. They fixed that, and that was only for groups, and they fixed that. And it was only video calls, I think. Anyway, what else was it? Oh yes,
There's no release date on the headphones, is there?
No. Somebody on Twitter said, Jeff, please, you must call these fire ears, which was I thought more likely they'd be called fire buds. I would have thought, but there we go.
I'm still saving up to get my Amazon-enabled microwave, just because I want to be able to say, "Hey, thingy, turn the microwave on." But then I just realised I've actually got to put stuff in there. Oh.
Yeah, you do have to put the stuff in first, but yeah. But yes, I thought that was quite interesting, and some people would probably say it's some people are probably going to say it's a Me Too product, but actually, Amazon, if you're in that ecosystem, with the Echo and various other, Fire TV Stick and the other things, I could imagine that could be quite a thing, Fire Buds with, Alexa support and all the rest.
I'd certainly give them a go, because they're allegedly going to use Bluetooth 5, which I thought was a bit of a hoax, but looking into it, Bluetooth 5 seems to be a thing now. But then when you're on the iPhone and the Apple ecosphere, they seem to be developing their own chip, so they don't have to sort of worry about the Bluetooth specification getting updated, like with the new H1 in the AirPods.
Yep.
In fact, I haven't seen any reviews of the new AirPods for Hey Thingy, how that works with the AirPods. Has anyone heard any feedback about it at all?
I think if you look, there are reviews. Obviously, I don't have AirPods, so I haven't really bothered to track that. They seem what I have heard seems to be that they are, slightly better than the AirPod originals, and they connect faster and more reliably, and so on and so forth. And the only criticism is that the audio is no different.
Yeah, the fact that I've not heard any negative stuff about it must mean that they're okay.
I think they're, some people have said they're not. I think the only thing I did read was somebody said they're not so much AirPods 2 as AirPods 1.5. And that was about the only negative thing they could say about them, really. They're saying they're not revolutionary, they're evolutionary. They've added the H1 chip and this and that, and it's fine. What do you expect? Seems some people were saying they were hoping that they might be made of a different material, so that they were a little more ear sticky. That might be new, actually, Nick.
I can't remember. Yeah, I remember that comment as well. I'm not sure it was me.
Somebody said something about having to put, ear skins on to make them stick in their ears. Anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
There we are. So, talking about Fire TV and the like, Netflix are removing AirPlay support. I'm not sure about this. It would appear that perhaps Netflix and Apple are having a bit of a spat, because Netflix have removed the AirPlay support from their app. So you can no longer AirPlay from, say, your iPad to your Apple TV.
I've never noticed that I've never tried, so because the Apple TV has Netflix app anyway.
Well, it does now, and I think this might be part of it, because I used to do that when I had Netflix, but Netflix was not on the Apple TV.
Right, okay.
And the best way to watch a Netflix program on my TV at the time, strangely, was to AirPlay it from my phone.
Yeah.
from my phone. If I tried to do it from my laptop, it would often, I don't know if the laptop tries to pull down a higher resolution version, and then it would be stuttery. But if I did it from my phone and AirPlayed it to the Apple TV, it was fine. So
That's strange.
That is what I would often do. Of course, I've had no need to do that since Netflix is available on the Apple TV.
So it may not be a hostile move. It may simply be that they've, you can watch it on Apple TV. Why would you want to AirPlay it?
No, what it is, it was just in the news this morning that they removed it because now it's integrated in some way or fashion. Netflix doesn't know what device you're watching it on.
Yes, now I read that as well. I read an update. It might have been from Dennis Sellers. Netflix issued a statement, as Mark just said, and they're saying that at the moment, because AirPlay is now available on a whole host of other devices rather than just Apple devices, Netflix doesn't know what you're attempting to AirPlay to. Not AirPlay 2, AirPlay 2, and therefore they don't, they're saying that could affect the experience, and because they're all about the experience being great, therefore they decided to pull it for now. So it could be that they are simply looking for a way to verify what the device you're trying to stream to is.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's the general gist of it, which is a shame. I mean, I've only ever got it to work. Oh, no, sorry, that's worked. The one I haven't been able to get to work is when you're watching YouTube on your phone and then you try and flick it across to another device. That's never worked. In fact, I've got a Sony telly and it's got this brilliant thing where you can beam your content to the TV, which has only ever worked once.
Dear. There you go. Anyway.
I would love to see Netflix in Apple TV in that little box. I think that would be a...
Yeah, well, they have quite blatantly stated that they are not joining Apple's TV/TV Plus thing. They're quite happy in their own little walled garden. Thank you very much. And
it's got an interesting paragraph in this article. Actually, it says, ultimately, I don't think Netflix removing AirPlay support is going to be a big deal by itself.
No.
If Netflix doesn't end up adding it back, the combination of this move, price increases, and lack of TV app support might prompt some Apple fans to switch to a competing streaming service. We aren't talking large numbers, but again, this makes me wonder why Netflix is bothering. Why store up any potential negative press when they don't have to? So that's a fair point.
I think,
unless, as you say, it's a technical issue. And they've decided just to take it out.
Their announcement initially said due to technical reasons. So,
right, okay.
And their explanation, has been that now that AirPlay is available in other devices than just Apple, they don't know what you're streaming to, and that might, impact the experience, and therefore they've opted to pull it. I also think, quite rightly, you've got Netflix on your Apple TV. You can get Netflix on your
anywhere really.
You can get it on your phone. You can get it on your. Why should you don't need to AirPlay it anywhere? So there we go. Right. I'll tell you what, chaps. Shall we take 5 minutes while John in the hardware store gives us what he's got this week, and we can get a fresh cup of tea, and then we can come back and do a couple more stories and wrap it up.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Over to you, John.
What the heck was that? It's the 15-watt battery-powered guitar amplifier with iOS USB interface and all the standard ports that you get on a typical larger amp. This one's about the size of a toaster, about 5 inches by 8 inches by 6 inches. Doesn't have a handle on it. It's all black. Has a power switch, has bass, mid-range, treble, volume, gain, 3 different sound channels, clean, drive, and lead, which is pretty grungy. It's got USB port, headphone port, and aux port. Takes batteries that are included. Company is IK Multimedia. IKMultimedia. IKMultimedia.com. Product is the iRig, I-R-I-G, the iRig Micro Amp. Take your playing further. $150 in the U.S. It's louder than you'd expect. Covers a range of tones. You can connect it using the cables that they provide to your iPhone, your iPad, your Mac, or your PC. It includes apps that you can use to enhance the sound of your guitar. You can use it as a little portable boombox. It even has an output, so you can extend the sound to another speaker. There is an optional AC power supply that we did not get with our review unit. We're waiting for that to arrive so we can test it with the power supply in addition to the batteries that do come with the product. A pint-sized powerhouse, 15 watts power when plugged in and 7.5 watts when running on 6 AA batteries. Combined with a 4-inch custom voice speaker, it pumps out surprising volume at half the size of similarly powered amps. I really like it. The sound is good. I used it for my music class the other day. I didn't tell people that we weren't using our normal speaker, and they didn't know a thing. The sound was great playing music from my iPad like I normally do. Have a look at this little gem, and it will go everywhere that you do. My only suggestion is if there was some way to put a handle on it to make it easier to carry around, that would be great. You are hearing the first but not the last of the iRig micro amp from IK Multimedia. Let's hear a little bit more music. Sock it to me.
Thank you, John, as ever. And the links to that mini amp will be in the show notes. And where shall we go now? Let's have a look at security and privacy, shall we? Cloudflare, providers of the 1.1.1.1 DNS service, have announced Warp, a new free VPN service for iOS. Several people were a bit sceptical of this because originally they announced it on April the 1st. But it is not a joke. It is not a joke. Apparently, it's their tradition. Following their tradition of introducing new services on April the 1st, Cloudflare is announcing Warp, a new mobile VPN which promises to protect users' internet traffic while improving speed at the same time. And this is their second service directed at consumers after the introduction of the DNS 1.1.1.1. Apparently, this comes after they have acquired a company called NewMob. While other VPNs slow down internet, Warp incorporates all the work that the team from NewMob has done improving mobile internet performance. We built Warp around a UDP protocol optimized for mobile internet, and we leveraged Cloudflare's massive global network, allowing Warp to connect with servers within milliseconds. It will be a free service, accessed through 1.1.1.1 app. They promise not to capture any user identifiable data or to sell your browsing history, and will constantly perform audits. Apparently,
sounds good.
Yep, they have mentioned there will be a premium version of the service called Warp Plus, which will be available for a small monthly payment.
One of the best comments I've seen about this is it was from an iTunes review, and it reads, "This is not a VPN per se, but the app does install and need a VPN profile to function. The intention of this app is to secure DNS queries via a secure DNS server. This device won't protect this app won't protect a device against Wi-Fi or man-in-the-middle attacks. What it will do is prevent your ISP or cellular provider spying on your searches and history. The developers of this app provide privacy as they don't sell the data that flows through their DNS servers. The app will also provide a faster internet experience, but this isn't guaranteed as anything else. Ignore the trolls saying anything else, blah, 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 blah. This app works very well. Does it slow down your ping or DNS? Well, I'm not quite sure how we would test that, but yeah, it's another good privacy app. We can't have enough of these, and I'm one of these people now that I leave my VPN on pretty much all the time unless I have to go to my banking.
Yep, I have my Proton VPN on all the time, and that became much easier after Proton VPN added the always on option to the apps for Mac and iOS, whereas previously it had a kill switch. So if the VPN dropped, it would cut off your internet altogether. They changed that, unsurprisingly, due to customer
I've got a question for you too. So before the show started, I said I've got an app here called Privacy Pro, which basically does a lot of fancy ad blocking, cookie tracking, all the stuff that tracks you. It says that it blocks and deals with. I installed this in November last year. I haven't had it running every day, but as of the 30th of March, how much data do you think this app has allegedly blocked or saved?
Well, you did tell us, Mark, so that's a bit of a dead giveaway, isn't it?
Oh, no, I told you for the month, not for 6 months.
Oh, right.
Ah.
Well.
So November, December, January, February, March. So call it 4 or 5 months.
Well, based on what you told us for a month, then I'm going to go for
about 2 gig.
About 2 gig, yeah.
2.8 gig.
Wow.
This is blocked or stopped the data request, and that's someone's data plan. And like, what's it for this month? I've been fairly heavy on this month. I've saved 410 meg alone this month. It's blocked. What it says here is 7,000 trackers, and I don't do that much sort of browsing, other than Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't necessarily do a lot of time on my phone drilling deep into things. So that 500 meg, if you imagine, you got kids out there who've got an iPhone, they're on the cheapest plan possible. That's getting near to half your month's data on a cheap plan.
Mm-hmm.
And people wonder why we get upset about privacy, because it doesn't just cost us in terms of privacy, it costs us in terms of our bloody bill and how much data we use.
Yes, indeed. And of course, your load times. I rely on Ghostery for that, Mark. I don't think Ghostery Lite provides you with analytics. If you use another browser and use the Ghostery, I think that will actually tell you how much it's blocked. But there we go. That's good. We'll put that in the show notes, Mark. We'll put that in the worth of chirps.
Yeah.
Worth of chirps, I think, for that one. On that front, as it happens, in worth of chirps, then a few weeks ago I mentioned Lulu, the open source kind of little snitch light from Objective-C, SSEE, that is. I've been using that for some time now. It's very good, very nice. Does what it says on the tin, as it were. When anything wishes to reach out to the internet, you get a box comes up saying what app is trying to access the internet, and it just gives you allow, deny, or temporarily. Obviously.
That sounds like the sort of app you would use that maybe way back when, if you were installing something by Adobe, and you see the amount of requests going back to Adobe about what you're installing. It's like, nope.
Well, obviously the paid-for little snitch is a far more comprehensive app. It has all sorts of things, profiles and rules building and all sorts. But that can be a little overkill for some people. So I mentioned the Lulu, and I've been using it on my laptop, and I found it very good. It's very simple, not as intrusive perhaps as Little Snitch can be, although Little Snitch calms down once you've set all the rules up. But it's worth a look if you are interested in just making sure nothing's calling home that shouldn't be. And link for that in the show notes, of course. Where next then? Well, shall we stick with the security and privacy? So Cloudflare have announced this warp, not actually available yet. I believe you have to go on the waiting list.
I don't know. I've installed it. I haven't tried it yet.
Right. Okay. Understanding Outline, Google's new DIY VPN service. And this was on VPN Pro. You'd kind of think that this was a bit counterintuitive. Jigsaw, formerly, I believe, Google Ideas, have created a tool which they have christened Outline, and it's a sort of do-it-yourself VPN. It's in an early stage of development, apparently, but it's pitched mostly, I believe, at journalists and possibly political dissidents. It's designed to provide an off-the-shelf DIY VPN for almost any location. It sounds more like an encrypted proxy service because...
You just get a Raspberry Pi and stick that. There's loads of baked builds for the Raspberry Pi to make it into a VPN service.
Well, apparently the point of this is it obviously because it's aimed at journalists and the like. it uses a cloud platform, DigitalOcean, which provides space for users to create dedicated VPN servers instead of requiring special routers or relying on a client.
You're basically renting a bit of processing box at DigitalOcean, installing software and rolling it through that way. Good idea, because it's you're basically getting your own VPN for about $5 a month if you keep your traffic down a bit.
Yeah. Overall, there, is it the best VPN? There's quite a long article here on VPN Pro. They're kind of saying that VPN services can be too expensive for people in poorer parts of the world, but I would say at $5 a month, it's not really a lot cheaper than something like Proton VPN, and it's capped at, I believe, 500. Was it 500 gig or something per month? Anyway, 500 gigabyte per data for 500. Although 500 gigabyte of data, I suppose, is quite a lot. That said, of course, it can, in theory, be used in countries like China where VPNs are technically banned. So,
it uses a protocol called Shadow Socks. I rather like that.
Yes, yes.
That's good.
So there we go. As they say, it's more of an encrypted proxy, really, than a true VPN. But
we love Proton VPN on this show because they came on the show and it's just bloody good software.
Oh, yep, we do indeed. But, other people may have other choices, and there are plenty of good reasons, to use a VPN of your choice. And as we always say, just make sure they're reputable. There we go. So, in some ways that seems slightly counterintuitive to me, Google, but it's from Jigsaw, who are the kind of blue sky thinking bunch and are not necessarily directly tied to, Google's business model per se. So sticking with Google to some extent, the browser choice screen for Android needs to offer real alternatives. This is from Clicks. Obviously, they've got they've got skin in this game. But they've posted an article on their blog which shows the interdependence of various browsers and how much they rely on Google and Microsoft. An interesting read. It's an interesting read. Nearly all browsers on Android are dependent on Google or Microsoft, and they've got a diagram here showing how they all, interconnect. And how the Clicks browser, which of course what they're promoting, and by the way, I like Clicks. It's now my fallback browser behind Safari, because it's always never rely on having only one browser. People never ever rely on only having one browser. You'll always run into something that doesn't want to work. The Clicks browser is based on Firefox. It's built off the Firefox Mozilla engine, and they're showing themselves here to be, on the way outer circle of dependence. But
so a browser, is that the internet? Oh, sorry, no, that's what everyone at church says to me.
yeah. So, but it's interesting. Obviously, it's about Android, so there's no mention of Safari or various other WebKit based browsers.
It says it follows the antitrust decision taken by the European Union in July 2018, which obliged them to pay a record fine of $4.34 billion. Euros, that is, sorry, $5 billion.
Well, give or take.
Yeah, it's a little bit like it is a little bit like the old Microsoft antitrust thing, wasn't it? Ages ago, where they were accused of only offering Microsoft, or was it Safari?
No, they were accused of only offering Internet Explorer.
That was it. Yes, yeah.
That was because at the time they for a short period they actually tied Internet Explorer into the OS.
They did.
It was the main rendering engine for everything on the OS, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, they were using it in effect for the File Explorer. They replaced Microsoft File Explorer with IE.
They've got this new browser coming out soon, haven't they? That's based on the Chromium engine.
Well, it's Edge. They're still calling it Edge, but they're dropping their own engine and going with Chromium. Yeah.
Oh, right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Microsoft Edge, which is a very strange thing to be doing, really. I don't get that at all. I really don't get that.
I'm going to say I do, because basically, if you think about it, Google is setting the standard for the internet in a lot of ways. And I think the example that Microsoft gave was when you were watching YouTube, the Edge has like there's probably people that are screaming at me saying this is a rubbish explanation, which it is. But there was like a rendering engine which went through the GPU. So if you're on a page, you could use the GPU instead of the CPU, which saves battery. And I think it was the tipping point, as I gave an example, was you could be in YouTube, but when they used to have all these annotations in pop-up cards, it was like an invisible div, which meant that Edge didn't detect it or render it properly. So it then fall back onto the CPU, then absolutely peg the CPU. And because, these days, more and more people as well, we've said, are watching YouTube, they were just going, Google will just write and change things to suit their own needs, and you're always playing catch up if you're Microsoft. So I think it sounds like it's like, right, if we're not working on this, we can be working on something else. We hope.
Well, from my point of view, Mark, I mean, Microsoft's business is their own affair, but for a major player in the OS, it seems very odd to be saying we're going to chuck in our own browser effort and basically buy one from Google. It just doesn't.
Well, it depends. Like let's face it, Edge has never really been a contender for a browser for years, since Windows 10, really, because it's excuse me, because it's always Edge was only really there to deal with legacy, which then they killed off with Internet Explorer 11 or 12, and then went on to Edge. And I think they just sort of realized that the sheer effort it's taking just to keep up and not innovate and push anything forward is they've just gone, well, why do we need to do that one? Why are we reinventing the wheel?
Well, I suppose it is possible that they've just decided that they should have their own browser, but that they're not really doing anything, and actually almost nobody uses it. I don't know, but
I mean, at one time, your browser was the differentiator, wasn't it? I mean, there were often sites that you couldn't even access if you hadn't got Internet Explorer.
Yeah,
but those days are long gone.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe Microsoft are aware that almost nobody uses Edge, and it's just not worth the effort. And they just
possibly
slow, and it's a memory hog in closing a tab and just trying to only to do anything.
And you're telling me Chromium isn't?
I don't understand half the browser battles, if I'm honest. I mean, I just use stock Safari with a couple of ad blockers, and the only thing that I have to go into Chrome for is when I'm working with Shopify, and one particular mod doesn't support this particular version of Safari.
Well, I admit, I basically use Safari on the Mac, and I use the Tech Preview and the Safari on iOS. And on the Mac, I always have a fallback. At the moment, my fallback is Clicks, previously Vivaldi, and I usually keep a copy of Firefox just in case.
So what we do know about Microsoft is that they've done a lot of good things of late, and they've done a lot of things to cooperate with other software writers and other companies. And perhaps this is just the next step. As you say, perhaps they just feel that actually having their own browser is no longer necessary, or at least not having their own browser, but having a browser built on their own technology is no longer necessary.
Well, yeah, I mean, the only downside of that is that now effectively there are you've not got that many engines. You've got Chromium, WebKit, and Gecko, and that's all there is. But there we go.
It's one of those cyclic things, though, isn't it? That we'll probably find that there's only a few for a while, and then suddenly something new will come along.
Oh, someone will come up with a new one. Yeah.
Let us remember Opera. God bless you, Opera.
There we are. So there we go. Yeah, there's a link there to the piece from Clicks, which shows the interdependencies of Android browsers, which is quite interesting. Russia has apparently blocked Proton Mail. This was on databreaches.net. The immediate comments in our Slack room, by the way, were, well, it must be good then.
That's probably true, yeah.
If Russia want to block it, there's not really much more to say about that. Russia have been attempting to block Proton Mail. The Russian federal authorities have directed internet service providers across the country to block access to Proton Mail and encrypted email service. This one's not in the show notes, but it came up in the week. I think this was on VPN Pro as well. Russia has been issuing various VPN companies with a demand that they hand over logs or encryption keys or something. And basically, the top 10, it's mentioned on VPN Pro, you can look it up, have all basically replied, you can get stuffed.
That's not really very surprising, is it?
No, not really. One of two of them have basically said, well, there's nothing we can give you, and the rest of them have said, even if we had anything, we're not giving it to you, so you can bog off. Proton weren't mentioned, so I did actually send an email to Proton VPN saying, have you received one of these, and if so, what are you doing about it? And they sent me a reply saying, we have not received one of these demands, but if we do, we wouldn't comply with it because we only comply with legal requests directly from the Swiss authorities. So,
fair enough.
There we are. That's that, really. Apparently, some Chinese sanitation workers now have to wear location tracking bracelets. This was on The Verge. And apparently, not only do these bracelets tell the Chinese authorities where these workers are. Apparently, if they stay still for more than 20 minutes, they would tell them to get back to work. Apparently, there was an outcry, and public pressure mounted to the point that the local sanitation company decided to walk things back, but only by removing the most obnoxious part. And now the bracelets will no longer say, please continue working if a worker decides to stay in one place. But they will track workers just the same. There we go. Again, not much to say about that. I don't know. What does it mean by sanitation workers? What, bin men? Or people who are working down sewers? I mean, I have to say, I'd be honest, if I was, somebody who worked down a sewer or something.
Yeah, you might want to be tracked then.
I might not be too unhappy about, my employers knowing where I was, in case something happened.
I think it's more like the silence, like the people that walk around going emptying bins and all that sort of stuff.
Yes, I think that's probably it. And
probably.
If they apparently stay still for more than 20 minutes, it was going to tell them, please get back to work. But apparently they've removed that, but no more. Well, it's China. China can do what China wants to do.
China does what China does.
Yeah. It's easy to generate a lot of false outrage about that sort of thing. I mean, let's face it. In this country, most delivery men, lorry drivers, and so on, are tracked all the time. Their vehicles are tracked.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when you buy something from Amazon these days, you can see where they are.
My son-in-law...
When they're about eight stops before you, it tells you exactly where they are. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my son-in-law drives a delivery van, for a living. And, of course, he's got a GPS tracker so that, when he's out, everybody knows where his van is. And when he's on the supervisory role, he can see where all of his delivery vans are. Yeah. And, of course, if somebody breaks down... he can see they've stopped moving, and he can ring them and say, "Is there a problem? What's happened? Why have you stopped moving?"
Although I suppose you could say there's a level of difference in the fact that they're tracking a vehicle rather than tracking an individual. But
then again, if you're a street sweeper, you're not going to have a vehicle to track, eh?
You can have it on your bins.
Yeah. Anyway, there we go. But yeah, I mean that's China becoming ever more oppressive, perhaps. But I don't know. As I say, it's easy to generate an awful lot of false outrage about something which might or might not really be that big a deal.
Yeah.
And I think we're probably pretty much done. Just a snippet. Apple have patented a system to help self-driving cars correct slipping tyres, according to the Motor Authority. Just to prove that Project Titan is not doing, nothing, chaps. A new patent revolves around detecting speed and behaviour of the self-driving car's tyres. It's a sort of semi-AI traction control, one would
Yeah, I would think so.
It's on Motor Authority. The link's in the show notes. I've just put that down as a snippet because I'm not really going to go into great depth about how that works. So I suppose we should sign off, really, don't you? We have been
Sounds
going
good.
quite a long time. So, Nick, have you anything you wish to promote?
You can hear me roundabout on various podcasts. I was on, as I say, with Bart on his Let's Talk Apple last week. The week before, I got for the first time on the My Mac podcast. So that was nice because Guy was away and Gaz was playing, as it were. So that was nice to speak with him. You can hear me about there. And if you want to contact me, you can contact me through Twitter. It's Spligosh, Spligosh.
Jolly good. Mark?
You can get me on the Twitter at Ocean Speed, and I'm going to be releasing my YouTube video soon. Don't get excited. It's a bit naff, but I've got an idea for a bit of a YouTube channel. So you can follow me at Ocean Speed, or I will probably more likely announce it on Essential Apple as well, just because I can shill myself. So why not? And that's about it. And hopefully in the next 2 weeks, I'll be doing the Car 10, which is Cardiff Tenby, if I can get a ticket, because some doofus, i.e. me, forgot that it was on early, and then after that I'll be cycling in Birmingham. So if you're on Strava, let me know, and I'll follow you back.
Very good. I am, of course, on the Twitters as at Serenak, and that's Serenak. And I think that's probably about all. Once again, thank you to Nemo. Thank you to everybody in the Slack room. If you want to join the Slack room, follow the link. And I think that will do. So goodbye, everybody.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Essential Apple podcast, and I'd like to say if you enjoy the show and would like to support us, feel free to go over to the website essentialapple.com, and you will find links to both Patreon and the Pinecast Tips Jar, where you can make a donation towards the costs of the show, or even if you're really keen, you could set up a recurring payment. And thank you very, very much to all the people who already do support us. We really do appreciate you very much indeed. This show is, of course, part of the My Mac podcasting network, where you can find a variety of other shows like the My Mac podcast with Guy and Gaz, the G-Men, Tech Fan with Tim and David, the Nintendo Club podcast, the geekiest show ever, the Three Geeky Ladies, Bart Bouchot's and his wonderful Let's Talk Apple, and possibly some more that I've forgotten. So why not go over to mymac.com, take a look at the available podcasts, and take a listen.
Amazon, Google, Apple, Android, iOS, Alexa, Siri, technology, sci-fi, video games, tablets, computers, flash drives, toys, weather, and general silliness. Geekiest show ever, every week on the My Mac Podcasting Network.
This has been the Essential Apple Podcast. Goodbye and thank you for listening.
Oh, no. That sounds a little bit like early programming where, you typed it in from a magazine and there was always at least 4 or 5 errors in it somewhere.
I never understood how to do that because it always wanted these funky characters. When I tried it on my first Specky, I never knew how to get the weird characters up.
Oh, you needed about 16 fingers on the Specky, didn't you?
And then, God forbid, with those lovely, lovely rubber keys, yeah.
Those were the days. I thought it was absolutely amazing, some of the things they achieved. I remember buying an early, now was this my BBC Master? Do you remember they had the BBC Micro?
Yep.
And they had a later one called the BBC Master, which I think had a bit more memory and stuff. I remember using a desktop publishing thing on it, and it literally just had to load bits of it as required, But I just thought it was amazing. They actually managed to do all sorts of different things for desktop publishing just in this one program. I thought it was amazing considering how little they had to play with.
Oh, if you want to be really amazed, go on to YouTube and look for a demo called Bad Apple, or I'll put a link into it now.
Bad Apple.
It's basically like a like demo scene programming sort of thing.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I watched it and I thought, this is really good. And, obviously it's on a PC and all that sort of stuff. And then there's the Amiga version. Then there's the Atari ST version. Then you get into the weird stuff like the Commodore 64 version. But then the Atari VCS 2600 has a version.
Oh, gosh.
And looking at it and you're just going, this is just flipping amazing. Like, they're doing like pretty much full 25 frames per second, I think it is. The music is absolutely amazing. I'll put a link in the chat room in a sec. Where is it? But it was just I was literally spent the weekend just watching the same demo, but just on different hardware.
Yes, and amazing what they could do with 1K.